This is Mitch with Mitch's Rant Time, doing another Mitch's Response. I'm gonna watch this video with you guys. It's from one of the CNN Democratic debate, and it's about gun control. And it's an interesting point. You're gonna hear Martin O'Malley be a bit more authoritarian and show a lot more ignorance to how gun control works and the reality of gun control. He's going to throw out a lot of terms. Both of them are going to throw out a lot of terms, him and Sanders, but Sanders' approach is a lot better, and I really think that Sanders is very much the Ron Paul of the Democrat Party. You know, takes a lot of the liberal points, kind of thrown under the bus by the establishment, and a lot of young people like him, kind of like how Ron Paul with the Republicans had a lot of fairly conservative, but both of them principled points, willing to work together with people, and had a lot of young supporters, and got thrown under the bus by the establishment. I'd really love to see those two going at it in the general election, Ron Paul versus Bernie Sanders, but, you know, it's not a perfect world. So we're going to watch this and see, and I want to respond.
Look, it's fine to talk about all of these things, and I'm glad we're talking about these things, but I've actually done them. We passed comprehensive gun safety legislation, not by looking at the pollings or looking at what the polls said. We actually did it. And Anderson, here tonight in our audience are two people that make this issue very, very real. Sandy and Lonnie Phillips are here from Colorado, and their daughter, Jessie, was one of those who lost their lives in that awful mass shooting in Aurora. Now, to try to transform their grief, they went to court, where sometimes progress does happen when you file in court, but in this case, you want to talk about a rigged game, Senator? The game was rigged. A man had sold 4,000 rounds of military ammunition to this person that killed their daughter, riddled her body with 5 bullets, and he didn't even ask where it was going. And not only did their case get thrown out of court, they were slapped with $200,000 in court fees because of the way that the NRA gets its way in our Congress.
All right, so this is kind of a double whammy here. The latter part about getting slapped with court fees is pretty ridiculous. That's something that we should look at in itself. People who don't understand the way the world works or understand reality shouldn't be punished so hard in courts for trying to pursue in court, especially, because you're going to have the NRA, probably a group like the NRA backing the gun dealer, or the ammo vendor. But you have to realize, the term military ammunition, that leaves a lot of open-ended questions. Military ammunition, what do you mean? Do you mean ammunition from the military itself? As in, this person was a soldier or had access to the armory of a military base and stole and sold, pretty much embezzled ammunition and sold it? Is that what you're saying? Or is it that this person sold ammunition that's seen as military grade because that sounds scary and you want to make a point? And saying something's military grade, a Beretta M9 pistol, which is a handgun, very popular, common handgun, is technically military grade because it was used by the military. A Colt 1911 45 ACP pistol is military grade. My M1 carbine is military grade, because they're all weapons that have been used or are being used in the military. So using language like that is ridiculous and stupid, and it doesn't get us anywhere. And Sanders is going to bring up a good point, because the people he's about to talk about are people who know that you're full of shit, O'Malley, and don't know what you're talking about. And when you talk to people and you don't know what you're talking about, you sound like an idiot. It's like going into a museum of biology and telling everyone that, no, this isn't true. aliens actually put all these animals here. they didn't evolve or whatever, regardless of all the evidence. You're going to look like a lunatic and an idiot who has no idea what you're talking about, because you don't.
And we take a back seat. It's time to stand up and pass comprehensive gun safety legislation as a nation.
Senator Sanders, I want you to be able to respond. 30 seconds.
I think the governor gave a very good example about the weaknesses in that law, and I think we have to take another look at it. But here is the point, Governor. We can raise our voices, but I come from a rural state, and the views on gun control in rural states are different than in urban states, whether we like it or not. Our job is to bring people together around strong, common sense gun legislation. I think there is a vast majority in this country who want to do the right thing, and I intend to lead the country in bringing our people together
Senator,
on that
excuse
issue.
me. Senator, it was not about rural. Senator, it was not about rural and urban.
Exactly about
Have you ever
rural.
been to the Eastern Shore? Have you ever been to Western Maryland? We were able to pass this and still respect the hunting traditions of people who live in our rural areas. And we did it,
Governor,
Anderson, by leading with principle, not by pandering to the NRA
Well,
and
as
backing
somebody who
down
has
to
a
the
D-minus
NRA.
voting record,
And I have an F
I don't
for the
think I am
NRA.
pandering, but you have not been in the United States Congress.
Well, maybe
and when
that's
you
a
want
healthy
to
thing.
check it out, and if you think that we can simply go forward and pass something tomorrow without bringing people together, you are surely
Let me bring
mistaken.
in somebody who has a...
Look, it's fine to talk about.
So yeah, Sanders brings up a good point, which is you can't just enforce your will upon everyone else, and if you do, you're going to end up with a big problem. I'm from Northern California. Northern California is extremely rural, like the 20 some odd counties north of Sacramento. The majority of them are rural, if not all. And we have a problem with Central and Southern California because the majority of our a little backstory, thanks to the court case of Reynolds versus Sims, the entire California Congress, both houses, are representative of population. So the majority of the seats in both houses are held by cities. They're held by San Francisco, the Bay Area. They're held by San Diego and LA and that area south of the Grapevine. That's the majority of the legislature. With maybe a handful, I think it's like 10 of the, I don't know how many seats, 80 seats or whatever, are from NorCal. Now, you need to realize, and especially in the Senate, because the Senate is different than the House. In the House, you're going to have in urban states, in states where there's high populations, you're going to have a lot in the Senate just by the fact of cities, because cities are more liberal, are more anti-gun because they have higher crime rates. Whether you have extreme gun laws or not, they're going to have higher crime rates because just dense population, more poverty, and everything else. So they're going to have higher crime rates. They're going to have tougher gun laws. So you're going to have in the House people pushing for that, but when it gets to the Senate, in rural states like in the Midwest or even states like Texas or Nevada, the Midwest and the northern West, you're going to have a lot of senators who, are not going to hear what you're saying. They're not going to listen. They're going to take what you say and tell you to blow it out your ass. One, because they're from a rural state. They're gun owners. It's their constituents. It's their lifestyle. It's what they do. It's their way of life. Their way of life is, I'm a responsible gun owner. Why should I have to suffer why should I have to pay for the price for the wrongings of someone else? And further, and this is a good point, groups like the NRA and the GOA buy off senators, buy off congressmen. They do. It's true. So, well, you have a good point, and this is the thing that I get upset, though. The problem is, And this is what Sanders is trying to get to. You need to work together. You can't just pull the old Obama or Bush trick and do something and then say that the other party doesn't want to do it. That's not the way of getting anything done. That's pure political bullshit, and that's what continuously puts this country into a drain. You need to work together. There are a lot of people out there, and that would be the biggest start. Start off with background checks. Do away with gun show loopholes and start with the background checks. It's the first thing you should pass. Don't try and put anything else in there. Just do background checks. People will support it. People will support it in the House. People will support it in the Senate. They'll support it all around. Because people would like to see, like, over 80% or 90% of the country thinks that background checks should be required for all gun sales. I do. I'm a gun owner. Probably would be considered a gun anarchist, and I think it requires a background check. Also have it to where laws are enforced. Current laws are enforced. The selling of a gun, the knowing, you have the background checks in that now, to where everybody does that, and they have a registry. Selling a gun to someone who does not pass a background check, or selling a gun without a background check, should result in revoking of FFL. And should result in being treated as an accessory if the person commits a crime with that gun within, a couple months. We need to be common sense about this. That is common. That is smart. But the problem is we're using terms like common sense and apprehensive. We're using terms. We're not using actual, we're just using words. We're not actually explaining what we want to do. Because to some people, like O'Malley, common sense is limiting ammunition, limiting semi-automatic rifles. That's not common sense. That's not going to do anything. If you tell me that I can't, if you take away all AK-47s, AR-15s, SCARs, you take all of them away, you take away all the 30-round magazines, and you take away all the ammunition for it, 7.62 by 39 and 5.56 ammunition, you take away all that, you're not going to do anything. Because the majority of murders, the majority of assaults, and the majority of suicides by guns are handguns. This is Federal Bureau of Investigation statistics, and unless they're bullshitting, and for some reason Obama okayed this bullshitting under his own jurisdiction, because this is under his administration, the FBI, this is their study, and the CDC as well. It's handguns by a landslide, 9,000 to 500, 9,000 gun murders with handguns, 500 gun murders with semi-automatic rifles. And that's not just AR-15 types. That's semi-automatic rifles in general. Ones that are not considered quote-unquote assault weapons because they don't have pistol grips and don't look like modern military weapons. So you're going to be, and the weapons I'm talking about, like the Mini 14 or the M1A1 or the M1 carbine, weapons that are just as deadly, but you're going to say it's going to be okay because they can be used to hunt too. People do use them to hunt, or they're ranch rifles. So this is the problem you're running into. There's no understanding, and you're lumping things into categories that don't exist. A semi-automatic rifle is a semi-automatic rifle. And if you're going to lump things into categories and not know what you're banning and what you're not, and just taking things away arbitrarily, people are going to smell that bullshit and not vote for it. That's why you're not going to do anything. You say you respected hunters. How did you respect hunters? What did you do away with? And what do you know what people can or can't hunt with? People hunt with 223s. And if you can hunt with the round with a 223 round, why not hunt with an AR-15? Sure, have magazine limits on hunting, but don't have magazine limits on life. You should be able to go out to the range and shoot off 30 rounds in one mag. And why not? Why can't you trust people to be responsible? Because bad people do things? Because people get upset? And this is another thing too, and I wish Sanders would have expanded on it. This is a mental health issue. A lot of times these mass shooters are mentally disturbed in ways that could have been stopped had we either had people who gave a shit, or if we had laws or procedures or programs that would have been able to get them the help that they needed, they could not be in jail, they could not be dead, and the people that they killed could be alive, and the people that survived might not be traumatized, and the people that survived probably aren't getting the therapy and help they need because we don't have a good fucking healthcare system. I mean, mental healthcare system and a healthcare system. We have a shitty one there. So it's multifaceted. It's very complex. It's not as easy as just saying, take away AR-15s, take away 30-round magazines, and take away these quote-unquote military rounds. And you can't sell more than 1,000 to a person at a time. You can sell as much as you want. And what's the difference? What's the difference then? Tell me the difference between me buying 4,000 rounds of 30-06 for my Remington 700. It's a weapon I would use shooting, hunting, and me buying 4,000 rounds of 9mm, my handgun that I use for home protection and self-protection. And should there be a difference? 9mm could be seen as a military weapon round. 30-06 should be seen as a military round. 30-06 is a military round. It's what we used during World War II in Korea. It was the main military round. So it's this misunderstanding of history and of the whole thing, and this lack of understanding is where a lot of the stupidity comes from. And again, I understand that the NRA is a big problem. They are. The NRA focuses so much more on promoting. They don't promote gun rights. They promote the conservative Republican. And that is something I'm offended by, because I'm a gun owner and I don't want my, when I was a member of the NRA, I didn't want my money or my representation to be seen as, I support this candidate or I support this party. It's supposed to be independent. The NRA should be independent, and I think that they are one of the many problems we face, and that's another issue in itself when it comes to groups like the NRA that lobby and buy politicians. Groups like the NRA, non-profit groups or organization groups or whatever, or advocacy groups, should not be allowed to donate money to politicians except for fundraiser. Same with churches, same with unions, same with corporations, same with any non-profit group. You shouldn't be allowed to donate unless you do a fundraiser, unless your group does a fundraiser, your organization does a fundraiser for that party, for that candidate. And it has to be, obvious and registered, or have to go through the procedures to do a fundraiser. Money should come from people, not groups. So that's the thing there. So I mean, this is the whole thing, and I would have torn into you on that if I'd have been there, but I never really could be a Democrat because, I mean, people consider Bernie Sanders extreme, and he's really far left on certain things. But yeah. Anyway, thanks. Sorry for the yawn. Thanks for listening. Hope you guys have a good day and subscribe and whatnot. Y'all know. Thanks for watching. Bye.